Hello, and welcome to another video on daily weather charts. These videos diagnose the current weather pattern and discuss how it will play out for the upcoming day. Today's charts are valid for August 6th, 2023, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe, and we will get started. And starting today with the upper level water vapor view, and it's showing this swirl here across the Midwestern states, and that is going to be the main player for our weather today. I'm going to look at the radar. For this morning, this is valid up through about 9 a.m., and we mainly just have scattered showers across parts of the United States. I'll draw your attention down back to our west across the Midwest. We have some scattered showers and storms across a frontal boundary that's going to be lifting to the north today as a warm front. And then also want to draw your attention to this batch of decaying showers and storms across Oklahoma and Arkansas. That's going to leave behind a remnant outflow boundary, which will serve as additional focus for thunderstorms later today that are going to track through parts of the Mid-South and the Tennessee valleys this afternoon. So with that said, I'm going to go to our upper air charts, and we're going to start at 300 millibars, and we're looking for the jet stream. And it is currently located over the western United States and stretching into the central plains. And we also see some wind vectors splitting apart in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And what that does is it creates this void in the atmosphere. And the atmosphere doesn't like that void, so it's going to bring air up from beneath it to fill that. And so that is just indicative of strong upper level support for storms later today across the Midwest. So we're going to look at 500 millibars now. And we have a pretty well-defined short wave across the central plains that talked about in the last video, and it's going to be organizing and intensifying as we go through today. And we have stronger winds flowing around the base of that short wave, and so that's also going to increase the upper level support for storms later today, and it's going to help set the stage for additional rounds of severe thunderstorms. And so we're going to look at 850 millibars now, and we have with that short wave getting more organized, we have broad cyclonic curvature across the central and midwestern United States. And we also have some modest wind speeds at 850 millibars, about 20 to 30 knots or so. And that's going to maintain itself through most of the day. And so looking at the surface now, we have two low pressure systems to look at. We have one that's over northern Indiana, that is from that remnant at MCV that I was talking about in the last video. So you can go check that out if you don't know what that is. I explain that a little bit. And we have this frontal boundary that's draped across the Ohio Valley in Indiana and Illinois. That's going to lift back to the north as a warm front. And that connects to our next low pressure system over Iowa and Nebraska. And we have a trailing cold front down into the southern plains. And so that's going to set the stage for severe weather today. And I'll show you the severe weather outlook for today, August 6th. And we have a broad level 2 out of 5 slight risk. That is the standard severe weather risk for parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and down into the Tennessee Valley. And we have all hazards that are possible for today: damaging winds, large hail, and the potential for a couple of tornadoes across parts of the Midwest, with the highest tornado potential across southern Illinois, and that does include the St. Louis metro. So with severe weather expected today, I'm going to look at some soundings for today. And if you don't know what soundings are or how we get this data, please check out my video that discusses how to understand soundings and SKUTs. And so that'll go into more detail on what I'm discussing. But I'll briefly go over some basic details. So this red temperature line that you see here, this is the environmental temperature. And then our green line here, this is the dew point. And then the area in between the red line and our dashed line here, that is our instability, which serves as the fuel for severe thunderstorms. So this sounding is taken at Birmingham, Alabama, at 7 a.m. And so I'll point out here, there's a lot of instability already that's building up across the deep south today. And I'll draw your attention to this number here. This is CAPE, which stands for Convective Available Potential Energy. And so that is just a way to measure how unstable the environment is. And so when the CAPE value is already exceeding 2,500 joules at 7 a.m., that is a very high number. So the atmosphere is very unstable for today across the southern United States, thanks to very high dew points. At 75 dew point already at 7 a.m. So that's a lot of moisture, a lot of instability. There's gonna be a lot of fuel for thunderstorms today. And as we go into the afternoon, we add some daytime heating to this. The instability values are only going to increase. And so we're going to look at some forecast soundings for this afternoon and into the evening. So I'm going to pull a sounding for Huntsville, Alabama at around 3 p.m. this afternoon. And so this is showing what the model is forecasting for what the environment is going to look like today. And so with daytime heating, so the forecasted temperature is 92 degrees with a 75-degree dew point. And so with that daytime heating, that's really going to increase the instability that you see here. That area in between the environmental temperature and the parcel temperature, that's what this dashed line is. And so when that's going to increase our CAPE values to about 32 to 3,300 joules per kilogram. And so I wouldn't be surprised with that number. I wouldn't be surprised with storms coming through today if we had damaging wind gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. So we'll have to definitely be aware of that. And so, but with that environment, only expecting really a damaging wind threat. Don't really expect any tornadoes to come from that. The tornado threat is going to remain across the Midwestern states this evening. And so we're going to look at a forecast sounding for 7 p.m. and going to take a sounding from St. Louis, Missouri. And so this model is not forecasting quite as much instability across the Midwest as compared to the Deep South, but still sufficient instability for severe thunderstorms. But here's the reason why the tornado threat is going to be could materialize for parts of the Midwest today. The environmental winds that you see here are going to be stronger as a result from the upper level support that we're going to see today. And so the forecast model is forecasting winds out of the southwest. I think they're going to be a little bit more out of the south as that surface low is going to be approaching from the west. That's going to help back those surface winds to the south. And so with surface winds out of the south, and then we have winds out of the southwest just above that, and then in the mid-levels of the atmosphere have winds out of the west. That's going to show a change in wind direction with height, which is what we call wind shear. And also some pretty, not half bad speed shear. The deep layer shear is forecast to be about 40 knots. And so that's going to help create what we call longer looping hodographs. And so that's going to be favorable for potentially some tornadic supercells if the surface winds are going to be a little bit more backed than what this model shows. So with that being said, I'll recap here just a little bit. So thunderstorms are expected to redevelop across Arkansas and move across the Mid-South and Tennessee valleys later this afternoon. And then later this evening, after the frontal boundary that's draped across this region, it's going to lift back to the north. That will set the stage for additional thunderstorms to develop ahead of a cold front. And that will set the stage for additional severe thunderstorms with potentially an all hazards threat, damaging winds, large hail, and maybe a tornado or two later in the evening. So it'll be probably around like 5, 6, 7 p.m. and then as we go through the evening hours. So with that being said, I'll end with this today. This is the Climate Prediction Center's temperature and precipitation outlook for this is valid for the following week, so August 13th through the 19th. And so they're forecasting below average temperatures for the northern interior of the United States, and then surrounding that, forecasting above average temperatures for the western United States down to the southern U.S. and up through the East Coast. And then we look at the precipitation outlook, forecasting mostly above average precipitation for a large part of the country, with the exception of the western interior of the U.S. And so that is all that I have for today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.